Neon Inferno is a cutting-edge run-and-gun shooter which puts players in the midst of urban war in a cyberpunk New York City. Play as an assassin and hunt down your targets, while evading the NYPD, the Corpos, and the Yakuza. Neon Inferno splits the action into two planes, the foreground and the background, introducing a whole new dimension of high-octane 2D action. But just beneath its surface lies a deeper story. What are the factions vying for control over New York? Who are the protagonists Angelo and Mariana, their boss Don Venatori, and their various targets? Answers to those questions and more as we dive into the story of Neon Inferno. Spoilers ahead. Neon Inferno takes place in the year 2055 in a cyberpunk dystopian New York, where state power has disintegrated and several different factions now vie for control of the city. The 5 boroughs of New York City have become 6. Manhattan is now split into 2 by the gigantic Empire Wall. Behind the wall is Inner Manhattan, a cloistered playground of the rich and the famous, protected with iron fists by the NYPD and their sometimes collaborator, the Pangea Corporation, who supplies all sides of this conflict to a massive profit. Outside the wall is Outer Manhattan and the outer boroughs. The city is in a steady state of low-level gang warfare, and the biggest gangs in town are the Family, a Pan-American crime syndicate, and the Yakuza, a Pan-Asian crime syndicate. You play as an assassin for the Family, either Angelo Morano or Mariana Vitti, or if in a co-op, then both of them, as Player 1 and Player 2, conducting hits against the opponents of your organization. And since this is a classic 2D action and not Hitman, that doesn't mean sneaking around, setting up sniper positions, or hiding bodies. That means gunning your way through hordes of enemies and taking down military tech 10 times your size. Neon Inferno's male protagonist, Angelo, is a highly skilled assassin for the Family, an American crime syndicate which consolidated the last remnants of the Italian Mafia, the Irish Mob, and various smaller groups.
We're starting the Irish Mob.
His career was not chosen, but destined. The Don Venatori adopted Angelo as an orphan, raising him as his own son. Years later, as the allure of glory fades, as the bodies start to come back at night, only one thing keeps Angelo in the game: his loyalty. To abandon the family would be to abandon his own. Therefore, he purges his guilt in confession, seeking in the next life a redemption unthinkable in this one. Someday, he says, he will finally leave the city, to forget and to be forgotten. The fateful day which is already ahead of us. Someday. Comfort is the mother of boredom, and it was Mariana's stifling upper-middle-class existence confined within the walls of gated neighborhoods and the fleets of armored cars between them, which gave her the craving for action, first as a shoplifter, then as a pickpocket. It was simply fate that one afternoon she would steal young Angelo's gun, that he would chase her down, and that, after returning the weapon, she would accept his offer of a date. She later took an oath to the Family, changing her last name to an Italian one, as was required from outside inductees, to Vitti. It was a long journey from petty theft to consummate killer, but Mariana is now a local celebrity, feared by even the hardened criminals of the underworld. In Neon Inferno, there are 4 major factions vying for control of New York City. There's the Family, of course. There's the Yakuza, who are their main criminal competition. There's the NYPD, who are corrupt to the point where they could almost be considered another gang in and of themselves. And perhaps the shadiest of them all is Pangea, the corporate profiteers who supply all sides in this conflict, and who help the NYPD administrate Inner Manhattan behind the Empire Wall. The first stage begins with Angelo and Mariana receiving a message from their boss, the Don. Tetsuya Oda, a Yakuza lieutenant, who the Family has been trying to pin down for some time, has been spotted nearby in Irving Hollow Park, in potential negotiation with the NYPD. The characters rush into the crowd in front of the famous Manhattan Bridge, dispersing it with gunfire. Then they fight the Yakuza through the streets of Brooklyn, until they're confronted by an NYPD helicopter, who, of course, they promptly take down as well. After getting bogged down in a firefight inside Irving Hollow Park, Angelo and Mariana realize that Oda has escaped the area, so they steal a news reporter's motorcycle and take the highway. Specifically the Brooklyn Queens Expressway, which looks a lot cooler in 2055 than it does today, though somehow even more cramped. After fighting through waves of enemies, including an NYPD officer driving a cool armored police car, our protagonists finally confront Oda, who's inside a weaponized self-driving truck that he's rented from Pangea.
Need to move? No problem. Take it yourself with U-Haul.
But I've never driven a truck before.
While Angelo and Mariana fight Oda, the NYPD has their own agenda, and they decide to airstrike both the armored truck and the player's motorcycle. The latter escapes just in the nick of time, but Oda survives, and he backflips out of the flames to continue fighting the protagonist. Finally, Oda is defeated, and the character's first mission is accomplished. After each stage, Angelo and Mariana hang out at their favorite dive bar, which is called The Anvil. Here they read about their latest exploits in the news and plan on what to do with their payout. Before meeting Don Venatori to receive their next mission, the protagonists can also go to the Gunslinger's Chain Store to buy weapons. The next 3 missions are selectable in any order. The character's next mission is to accompany their friend and associate Vector Volta into the Bronx on one of Vector's regularly scheduled dead drops, where he delivers drugs to the area's distributors. However, on the way to meet Vector, Angelo and Mariana receive a distress call. He's currently pinned down in the Pavilion Hotel in the midst of a massive firefight between the NYPD and the Yakuza, and it's now the protagonist's job to rescue him. The Bronx is an urban war zone, where battles between the police and the gangs cover entire neighborhoods in flame. Angelo and Mariana fight through the streets of this burning district, fighting both the NYPD and the Yakuza on the way. What's notable is that the NYPD and the Yakuza are also fighting each other. At one point, an NYPD tank comes into the scene to confront Angelo and Mariana, only for a Yakuza to throw out the officer inside and start manning the tank himself. At another point, a Yakuza goon appears inside a Pangea mech and starts fighting both the NYPD and the protagonist. After many tribulations, including a confrontation with a giant NYPD battle tank, Angelo and Mariana finally arrive to the Pavilion Hotel, which is now dilapidated and practically in ruins. Our protagonists fight through the hotel until they arrive at the rooftop. The police have rounded up both the criminals and civilians and are in the process of extorting them. When Angelo and Mariana arrive on the scene, kill the police and free those they have trapped, including Vector. Vector then flees off-screen to safety, but the fight isn't over yet. A mecha suddenly appears in the background, piloted by NYPD Captain Helena Voss. Angelo and Mariana successfully destroy Captain Voss's machine, then fight her one-on-one as she attacks the players using her mech suit's powers. Finally, Voss is defeated, and her body disappears off-screen. But is she gone for good? The character's next mission is to assassinate a New York State Senator, Alton Stevenson, whose offshoring plans threaten one of the family's crucial streams of mob revenue. This takes the players into the borough of Outer Manhattan, where Stevenson is headed to the Opera Modern to watch the performance of Mozart's Don Giovanni. The only way into the district is through the L Shuttle, and predictably, Angelo and Mariana are confronted by an NYPD officer almost the moment they step foot in the subway system. The NYPD rapidly descend upon the shuttle cab in waves, coming from all directions, but our protagonists make good work of them. So they call in their backup. A Pangea airship appears in the background and fires a series of missiles which destroy the roof of the shuttle, and 2 hyper-powered Pangea operatives arrive on the scene to take down our heroes. They fail. But we're not out of the woods yet. The airship launches another barrage of missiles, forcing the players off of the shuttle entirely and onto a series of flying cars. After some light platforming, our protagonists find their way into solid ground again, and they make their way across the rooftops of Outer Manhattan into the upper entrance of the Opera Modern. They platform across the opera rafters, while the climax of Don Giovanni plays in the background, displayed on the monitors.
Hotel with cops!
What are you doing? You're ruining Don Giovanni.
Finally breaking into the senator's private viewing room from above. The senator is guarded by an elite Pangea super soldier who proves a tough fight, but Angelo and Mariana finally prevail, and the Pangea elite's shield around the senator disappears, who then panics and jumps out the window to the streets below, landing on a motorbike, and our protagonists give him chase on their own bike. As Angelo and Mariana chase Stevenson through the streets of Outer Manhattan, they both battle Stevenson himself and the NYPD. Stevenson turns out to have a bit of a vicious streak now that he's cornered. But finally, our protagonists destroy his shields, at which point he's satisfyingly electrocuted to a crisp. The character's next mission is to take out Jazz Sakai, a notorious Yakuza underboss who runs 2 nightlife venues in Flushing, Queens: the upscale Metropolitan Lounge and the underground 54 Linden After Hours Club. both perennial Yakuza hangout spots, and both in the same building. Angelo and Mariana head to the Metropolitan Lounge, only to see Sakai entering the elevators and descending into the nightclub, at which point they're confronted by Yakuza members. After shooting their way through the room, they end up in a three-way firefight between themselves, the Yakuza, and the NYPD, as a police airship appears in the background and cops start flooding the scene. Finally, the airship releases the NYPD Walker mech, which crashes into the room. This mech is equipped with a powerful flamethrower that easily sets the whole lounge completely on fire. Once they've taken care of the mech, Angelo and Mariana descend into 54 Linden, which is currently packed end-to-end with civilians. Being careful not to cause any collateral damage, either from their own gunfire or from their enemies, our protagonists surgically eliminate the Yakuza guarding the dance floor and destroy the club's security robots as well. They fight through the club's fog-filled rooms and stairways, and finally they make it to the VIP room where Jazz Sakai sits waiting, with a couple of girls. Those girls quickly run away when the fighting begins, and Sakai pulls out his laser sword. After considerable effort, Angelo and Mariana manage to wound him, and he jumps into the room's jacuzzi and bursts out inside a Pangea security mech. This mech has several different attacks, and it can also utilize a laser system hidden inside the room's ceilings. But once it's defeated, Sakai is toast. Once Angelo and Mariana carry out their initial set of missions, they're summoned to an emergency meeting with the Don during one of the yearly flash floods, which New York City now experiences. Vector Volta, the protagonist's friend who they previously saved from the NYPD in the Bronx, has apparently gone rogue. He's gone to the police, and he's ratted out his friends. If Volta makes it to the witness stand, then it's over for the family. He simply knows too much to be left alive. The problem is, the NYPD have hidden Volta inside a safe house in Inner Manhattan, the cloistered ultra-rich borough, which would normally be impossible to break into. Luckily, because of the flash floods, the family has an inn, the Empire Wall, which protects Inner Manhattan and separates it from the chaos of the outside world. And all Angelo and Mariana need to do is find a hole in the wall. They quickly do so, and that's where this urgent mission begins. The streets of Inner Manhattan are still infested with NYPD even in the floods, and they come at you from all directions. At one point, they even send in a submarine to take you down. After that fails, Pangea gets called in again. They always seem to be clearing up the NYPD's messes, and they send an entire airship. The same airship that Angelo and Mariana saw on the shuttle when they were hunting down Senator Stevenson. Now they get to fight it directly, and they do so with relish. In a last-ditch emergency tactic, Pangea releases a robotic snake from inside the airship's emergency hatch, which our protagonists also defeat. And after that, they finally arrive at the police safe house. The safe house is heavily guarded, and it takes much effort for Angelo and Mariana to fight their way to the top floor, where Vector Volta is ostensibly being held. When they enter the control room at the top of the safe house, they're confronted with a surprise. Vector is nowhere to be seen. Instead, the NYPD Captain Helena Voss, again, heavily scarred from the protagonist's early encounter with her, but still breathing. Voss turns the control room's many defense systems against Angelo and Mariana, but the duo gains the upper hand in the end, and they defeat her for a second time, this time for good. But now they're stuck with a deeper problem. They're now trapped here with no way out of this safe house. After several days, weakened and starving, Angelo and Mariana finally get picked up by the cops. They're loaded onto a police helicopter, which is set to transport them to prison, or worse. But they manage to break out of their chains. What follows is a daring escape in which our protagonists face countless police officers and police hardware. Finally, they end up on dry land, on Governor's Island, with a view of the Statue of Liberty, as it turns out, and they make their way into hiding, trying to process everything which just happened. Where is Vector, if not at the safe house? And why did the Don not warn them about the NYPD's trap? All these questions swirl around in the minds of Angelo and Mariana as they lay low for a couple weeks. Suddenly, they receive a transmission. It's from Vector, and it's titled Dead Man Switch. Contained in this message is a massive evidence, all of which points towards a shocking conclusion. The mole in the family wasn't Vector. It was Don Venatori himself. Venatori had been secretly collaborating with the NYPD for years. feeding them information in exchange for the NYPD largely looking away in regards to certain mob activities. Finally, the pressure ramped up on the Don. He betrayed both Angelo and Mariana to the police, and presumably even Victor as well. The Don is now reportedly hidden inside the Pangea Tower, a giant panopticon-like structure which oversees all of New York City, from what is currently Randall's Island. He's under both Pangea and NYPD protection. Our protagonists gather their bearings, then head to this corporate tower for the final confrontation. It's a grueling fight through the building's exterior, lobby, elevators, and panic rooms. Venatori is deep inside, but Angelo and Mariana finally reach him. Not before dealing with his bodyguards, of course. The first of whom is a massive super-powered Pangea Heavy, and the second is one of Pangea Commander's himself, piloting a massive multi-headed mecha known as the Hydron. Venatori tries to make excuses for his actions, but both sides know that only one of them will leave this room alive. The fight rages on, and Venatori battles his former employees with massive speed and vengeance. But he's not skilled enough to dodge Angelo and Mariana. He dies with a ghastly expression permanently inscribed onto his face. What are Angelo and Mariana to do now? Their former life is no longer possible. Don Venatori is dead, and all the gangs of New York City are now pitted against them. NYPD, Pangea, and the Yakuza, of course. But even the family wouldn't accept the blatant murder of a Don, even if he was a corrupt and fallen Don. The only option our protagonists have is to flee New York City and start a new life. But inevitably, it will be a life of looking over their shoulders, waiting for the gunfire to start and the bullets to pierce their bodies. Where will Angelo and Mariana go? How will their stories really end? That is a question for a sequel. And there you have it. That was all of Neon Inferno's in-game story from start to finish. If you want to experience it for yourself, Neon Inferno is now available on all major platforms: Steam, Nintendo Switch 1 and 2, PS4 and 5, Xbox One and Series, with physical editions for Nintendo Switch and PlayStation 5 distributed by Limited Run Games until December 28th, 2025. And we'd love to give a big shout out to the players who've already experienced Neon Inferno, from everyone at Zenovia Interactive, and us, the publishers at Retroware Games. Now, are you strong enough to brave the Inferno?